Most dynasty rebuilds don't fail because of bad trades or bad rookie picks. They fail because managers get impatient with the rebuilding process and break rebuilding rules while they're in the season. And if there's one thing you can remember from this video, it's that running backs and veterans are the reward for rebuilding, not the starting point. My name is Caleb, and welcome to the Dynasty Edge HQ, where we teach you how to think like a GM to take your dynasty teams to winning championships in the future for many years to come. And today I want to talk about the one thing or the one mistake that rebuilders make while trying to rebuild. And a lot of the time, what comes to mind when people think certain things like ruin their rebuild, they think it's a bad rookie pick. Like they pick somebody and it was just a bad pick. They wasted that draft pick. It could be one bad trade that they made and they feel like they lost so much value. The player got hurt right away, or the other player just took off in value afterwards. It could be injuries. It could be bad luck. There's a lot of things that can go into what causes your team to fail, but it's definitely not those little things that are just outside of your control. And today I want to encourage you with ways that you can take your team from rebuilding, even if you stepped out of it, to get back on the right track. And so the actual mistake that people make in this process of rebuilding is that they are trying to compete before the rebuild is ready. They do things like buying running backs way too early. They buy veterans because they think that's going to help them make the playoffs. You know, when we're in season, it's so tempting to go after the playoff push, to make a try at winning the championship. And oftentimes in our rebuilds, when we choose to rebuild, you have to go down to the bottom to rebuild it, build a good foundation to go back to the top. And so you have to stop those little habits and stop the urge of trying to break your rebuild to start competing when you're not ready. That's how you get back to the middle again into no man's land, and it's not going to allow you to build the team that you want to build. And so I want to get to how this might show up in your actual leagues. What a mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they're holding running backs for too long. So you're building your team and you have some running backs that might have some value, but you end up holding onto them because you're like, ooh, maybe they'll get to higher value. On a rebuild, the running back is the last position that you need to build on your team. So if you have any running backs of value, move them when they have a value spike, when they have an opportunity to take off in value. That's the time to move them. So don't hold on to them too long. Definitely don't hold on to them at a point that their value is about to drop. It's time to sell, get some sort of value back. Most likely you want to go after picks, but you want to be able to not hold on to those running backs way too long. I think a big mistake that people make is making that last move to get into the playoffs. If you're rebuilding and you happen to make the playoffs, that's house money. That's an opportunity to go into the playoffs. You didn't even try to win. You just are building that team. You're rebuilding. Don't make that extra move. You're not there yet. If you're not the top team or one of the top 3 teams and you're like consistently at points higher than everybody else, it's not the time to make the move. In fact, it's a good opportunity if you have no trade deadline to make moves the opposite way. Continue to gain more value. Get your team ready to make a push when your team is ready to attack. I think that another big mistake that people make is then they go and they buy veterans. They buy veterans because they're like, oh, I'm just one veteran away. I'm one Mike Evans away from winning the championship. So I'm going to go spend a second round pick, a late first round pick on a player like that, which ruins the rebuild. That's how you set yourself back. That's how you get back stuck in the middle, because that's not going to put your team forward. You need to make moves that are setting your team up for success. You're not making short-term moves. You're making long-term moves. It's okay to go all in when you're ready to go all in. But when you're not there, this is the mistake that kills rebuilds, is when you get too impatient, you want to jump in, and you're not ready to do it. I think that another mistake that people made is they get too attached to players. Like for me, I like the Cowboys, and so I like having Cowboys on my team. And so I like to go after CeeDee Lamb or a Dak Prescott or a Javonte Williams to get my team ready. But the problem is with just going after those players is that I could overpay for those players. If my league knows that I like those players, I'm likely going to have to overpay for them. And so you have to not think about in a rebuild just buying your favorite players. It's always playing off value. If CeeDee Lamb, who is my favorite player, is very valuable at the moment, that is an opportune time to take advantage of his value spike. And so don't get so attached to players that you can't, make a move for your team. It's okay to have favorite players. It's okay to have them on your team, but don't do it at the extreme expense of setting your team backwards. Don't go spend, an extra 3 first-round picks to go get your favorite player when you don't need to in your rebuild. And that's how you can get stuck back again at the rebuilding phase and set yourself back. Make those moves. You don't have to worry about getting your favorite players. When you're more ready to compete, that's when you can start making some moves for your favorite players. But in a rebuild, it's all about value. It's all about getting the right players, the right picks, and just building forward, building a huge base, and then building up from there. And I think the last thing that people get really stuck up on in a real rebuild is they went out and they paid that 4 first price for a player like CeeDee Lamb. Let's say in the season or a different time, CeeDee Lamb starts to go down in his price. Or a better example would be they went and they paid a couple seasons ago 3 first-round picks for A.J. Brown. And they're like, A.J. Brown's value is just dipping and dipping. And they refuse to sell A.J. Brown because his value is lower than what they paid for him. Don't get stuck in this trap. It's okay to then sell that player for less than you paid for them. It's better for your team long-term. Don't hold on to assets on your team too long just because you paid up for them. It's okay to take less value. You're getting value back on your team. You don't want that to go to 0 and then you get no value. You didn't win a championship. Your team's still stuck in the middle. What is that getting you? Get your team back ready to rebuild by selling off players that you paid up for that are no longer serving your rebuild. You can hold on to players that you paid up for as long as they're continuing to go up in value, but don't just hold on to players just because you paid up for them. I think that one of the big rules that you can get stuck in that prevents some of this from happening is that you don't have a long-term quarterback solution. You might have some decent quarterbacks, you might have some decent receivers, and all of a sudden you think, hey, I'm ready to go all in on this. Don't break your rebuild. Don't break this process of building value, getting young players, getting young talent on your team before you're ready to do that. Make sure you have a cornerstone quarterback. Make sure you have at least a couple cornerstone wide receivers and a really good tight end before you start adding the pieces to go after the championship. You really need to make sure that you have those things because you can't, a running back and veteran wide receivers are the reward for rebuilding. They're not the starting point. So don't start by going and paying up for Bijan Robinson. Don't start by going and paying up for Jonathan Taylor or Mike Evans or Tyreek Hill. Start by getting those young, valuable assets, consolidating those members on your team so that you can get better players in the future. And so what do you do if you've started to break your rebuild and you find out, hey, Caleb, you know what? I started to break my rebuild because I thought I could compete, but now I'm back at that 6 seed, that 7 seed, and I feel stuck again. We start the process over. We go back into rebuilding and we start to break it down so that we can build for the future. And so we start doing those rebuild rules. We sell off running backs, aging running backs, aging vets. We start to sell them off for picks. Make sure you get picks in value or players that are lower in value because they're injured or maybe there's some stink on them because they had a bad game. Go get those kind of players that are going to only go up in value, but sell off these aging vets and running backs. Reliquidate your roster. Get rid of any players that have any sort of value. Let's say you had Michael Penix and you also had Kirk Cousins a while back. Penix went down. Cousins is worth something now. You're going out to your league and you're offering Kirk Cousins for a 3rd round pick to every person, maybe even a 4th round pick if your league goes to 4-round drafts. Get something for these players that helps build your roster, gets points off your roster, and helps you build for the future. Get those value because picks, they're always going to go off. We are in the middle of the part of the season where picks are their most valuable they're going to be. January to May is the time to go get picks, to have them and then be able to sell them for high value. So make sure you're constantly finding ways to get people off your roster, liquidate any assets, and start over from the beginning. I think that's a great way to help you set yourself up for the future. And that's a way to stay disciplined. Make sure you're not getting, that shiny new toy comes out. You're not just going all in on that one thing. I think what helped me the most in my rebuilds was looking at it as building out before I built up. And once I realized that I just had to build out the team a little bit more, use those picks to get these young assets that have some value that can go up. Go out there and just build your team out. If you have just one or two elite assets, maybe tier down a couple for those guys. Trade your Drake May for a Bo Nix and 2 firsts. Trade your, Josh Allen for, it's really hard to trade down from Josh Allen, but maybe Josh Allen for Drake May in a second. Get those insulated assets and also get a pick on top so that you can build out your team. Build out, and then that's when you can go up and go get those more elite players down the road. Be patient. You can make this dynasty rebuild happen in less than a year if you just stay active on top of things. But the biggest thing is be patient and attack when you have opportunity to get value for things in the season, in the off season. Keep track of different trends that are going on, trade targets. And in the future, we're going to do some player take videos where we get, 3 players to act on, 3 players not to. So we're going to dive into all of that, as well as draft prospects to keep an eye on. So be looking out for those kind of things. The biggest thing to take away from today: running backs and aging veterans are the reward for rebuilding. They are not the starting point. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. Comment down below. Let me know, what is your rebuilding strategy? What did you take away from this video? I'll always comment back to you guys. I can't wait for the next video. We're going to dive more into what rebuilding looks like and some strategies to help set your team up for the future. I'll see you guys in the next one.